So he said that we were going to have Matt on this episode, but it looks like he might have to be on the next episode just because of schedules.
So here's Matt's usual self-deprecating sense of humor, where he said, not defecating, deprecating.
Deprecating.
Self-defecating is a whole different podcast.
That's our new podcast.
No, it's not. You got to be shitting me. Oh, wait, I shat myself. That's not good. We're not
I like
calling it
that one,
that.
though.
I'm
That one's a
sorry.
good one.
I'm sure you're going to edit all that out.
I doubt it.
So Matt's self-deprecating sense of humor is, he said, there's no way Nick's going to want me back. The reason he was hurrying was because he said he couldn't stand any more of Matt or something like that. So.
Wrong Matt.
I said, wow. Yes, I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to let you try to untangle yourself from your own words.
Oh, no, I'm going to meet with him next week.
That Matt.
That Matt with Real Week. And, I'm sure he'll be listening because he's got a long drive ahead of him.
Does he?
Yeah, he's going to be going from where he lives in Cleveland, all the way down to where are we on? I got to see because we've got 3 stops. We are going to
Oh, you're traveling together. How sweet!
Isn't that so sweet? We will be in Frankfort, Kentucky.
Oh,
and then we'll be going to Madisonville, Kentucky, and then we'll be headed to Terre Haute, Indiana.
Wow! You're in all the hot spots.
All the hot spots. That's if they let us in the store. We'll find out in a couple of days.
No stop
after the weekend.
Paducah?
Not this week. No.
Oh gosh,
I know.
I don't know how you're.
I'll be going through Paducah on one of the legs.
I know you're going to have to stop there at some point. Don't they have a Hooters there?
Speaking of stopping, so we'll get back to the Matt thing. Yeah. But I feel like I took. We're just after Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, John.
I'm full of turkey.
You are a turkey.
Hey.
Anyway, I took the whole week off, and not that I really didn't work, because when I'm not working my day job and I take time off, I'm working the studio job. Anyway, I decided to because I needed them really badly, to get my tires on my car replaced, and so.
Oh, on the Mercedes already?
On the Mercedes. Oh, well, so when I bought the car, the dealer said we replaced the front 2, but we didn't replace the back 2 because they were still okay. Well, I already got and I don't know if you want to call it the death rattle or what you want to call it, but when you hit your brakes and the car starts shaking because your tires are bad. Well, I started getting that right off the bat.
Tires and could be rotors too.
Could be. No, the rotors were just replaced. So he said he replaced
the tires.
Right? Yeah, exactly. No, he replaced all the brakes and all the rotors and the front 2 tires. And he said the rear tires will need to be replaced, but they were still good, so we didn't touch them. Wow. Well, it didn't take long for those to go bad. So I took it to a tire place near my house, and because they had a really good deal on tires, like $600 for all 4 tires.
Oh, but what kind? What brand?
I don't remember. Nexon.
Bobalicious.
Yeah, they just happened to be there. What was on sale this time, and I didn't know if I would get those or get something else, but they had them in stock, and it was a good deal. So we go in there and I start talking to the tire guy, and he was saying, "All right, we've got one little problem with this. Your tires currently, which is why they ride so rough and why they wore out so quickly, is because they are run flats." Mercedes comes standard with run flats.
And they were the original tires.
And the back 2 were the original. The front 2, he said, are still really good. He actually said 3 of the 4 are really good. You have 1 bad tire that needs to be replaced. But I don't have a match anywhere in my inventory, anywhere in the Nashville area. So you would either need to replace both back tires with something similar or replace all 4.
That's what you should do anyway.
That's what I always do, because even I don't care if the front tires are really good. I just like to be able, because I do 4 tire rotations and I do it at every oil change instead of every other.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I do it. I mean, I had tires that were rated to last 50,000 miles and they lasted me 70,000 because I rotated them all the time.
It's because you drive like a geezer.
No, I really don't. Ask Matt. When last time he was following me, I lost him because I was driving. Anyway,
but he drives
any
like
police
grandma.
Any police officers that are listening? No, I do not speed ever. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and replace all 4 tires. And then I said,
Oh,
I thought to
4.
myself,
Okay.
yeah, I said, let's go ahead and replace all 4 tires.
Yeah.
Because I want the same on there.
I
And
know.
that was also because I
Yep.
was going to put those Nexons on there which are not run flats. So
Right.
he's like, all right, so just so you know, we're not putting run flats on. I realized that. And I was thinking, you know what? I've never really looked to see if I have a spare. I would assume that I don't because I have run flats. So I went out and I checked just to make sure. No spare. So I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I've never really had tire problems. I have AAA. I should be okay. And of course, I'm sitting in the lobby, and the more I'm brooding on it, I'm going, damn it. No, is it too early or is it too late to change my mind? So I go in, or I go back up to him and I say, all right, let's look up run flats. And well, first of all, I looked up a specific C300 spare tire kit and how much that was. And it was 300 to 400 bucks.
Okay.
So then I looked up the spray foam that you can use to pump the tire up if something goes bad,
Sure.
that was, that was pretty reasonable. And it was like 60 bucks for the whole kit. And I'm like, okay, I could probably do that, but I know nothing about this.
Mm-hmm.
My weakness is tires. I know very little about tires. I've tried to do my research,
really,
but
tires are your kryptonite?
Tires are my kryptonite. It's my only kryptonite.
You should have bought kryptonite tires.
I should have. That would have been awesome. I wonder if they make
yes.
Them. So anyway, I brought that up to him because he was a really nice guy. He was very knowledgeable, or seemed to be very knowledgeable. At least he was confident in what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And I said, because I had my computer with me, I was doing work.
Almost as good as being knowledgeable.
Exactly. It really is. It really is.
Yes.
So I said, does this stuff work? And he said, absolutely. That stuff is fantastic. The only problem is that if you use it, let's say you get a nail in your tire and it's a slow leak, but you have to fill it to get to a place to get the tire fixed, you ruin the tire if you put it in there because it actually congeals and kind of melts the rubber from the inside. So you have to end up replacing the tire, even if it's just a little puncture hole.
Well, so why don't you just drive on a flat tire then if you got to replace it?
Exactly. So I'm like, all right, how much are run flats? So remember the 4 tires, the Nexums were $600. Yeah. Run flats, $1,100.
Almost double.
So I looked, and it wasn't quite $1,100. I think it was $1,085 or something like that. So I'm like, that's a lot. But if I want to get a spare, I'm still adding $300-$400 to that cost.
I have another idea, but go ahead.
Continue. Well, it's too late now. I already got the run flats.
Oh, now you went right to the end. I'm sorry.
I know. That's okay. It's okay. No, that was it. I went and he ordered the only run flats he could get were the $1,000 run flats. So now I have a brand new set of run flats on my Mercedes, and I went in thinking I was getting a really good deal, spending $600, and I walk out of there spending $1,100.
Well, but you know what? Tires and brakes on cars are pretty special items.
They really are. Yeah, you can't.
I'm not sure you can spend too much. I mean, I bought some. Oh gosh, I can't remember the brand name. I had a Lexus some years ago and needed tires. My friend at the dealership replaced the tires with Tiger Paw.
Okay, never heard of them.
And I think I'm not even going to guess who makes them, but I think it's a major manufacturer. And let's just say they didn't last long. And he apologized to me because had I known you were going to buy it, I would have put better tires.
No, wow.
And I go, thanks, pal. Well, so anyway, I had to replace them, and they had a special for tires and wheels. And so I had this gray Lexus LS, I think it was the 430. So it was the big flagship car. Okay. And I replaced tires and wheels. And they were like the black murdered out rims.
Nice.
And they looked great with the tires already mounted. So it was just a quick slap them on when everything came in. And so it worked out fine. They were great tires, but I knew nothing about this brand of tires before I ordered them.
Oh, really?
And so I did lots of research and they actually scored really well, even though the name wasn't, one of the more common household ones. So,
interesting.
You can go a lot of different ways with tires, and it's smart to to not be too thrifty.
Yeah, and that was I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset at all. It just was one of those things. It's like, maybe I should have just done the 2 in the rear. And here's the kicker. So I thought I was being thrifty by going to an actual tire place,
Sure.
rather than going to the Mercedes dealer,
Sure.
because they quoted me, and I thought, you quoted me for 2 back tires, and that was, I think, 580, something like that, 560. And I'm getting a whole set for $600. No. But at least, you know what? Here's the one shining star in all of this is that Mercedes dealer. Obviously, unless the tire place was royally screwing me, which they could have been, that Mercedes dealership was not screwing with me, because the tires were the same, basically the same price.
Those were the run flats.
Those were the run. Well, yeah. I mean, they have those tires.
Yeah.
Whatever they would put on a regular C300 is what they would put on my car. So,
and they had run flats on the front, the ones they replaced. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you had 4 run flats. So here's the real question. Aside from the good part that you have the run flats, how does it ride now? Have you noticed
it rides? Yes, I have.
I mean, not wobbly, obviously.
It's not wobbly anymore. Yeah. That's gone. It's pretty smooth. I haven't really taken it. The speed limit between this place and my house is 50 miles an hour. So I haven't taken it.
You can't get up over 80.
No, not yet. Yeah. So I don't know how they feel on the freeway, but I mean, they're yeah. I mean, it feels much better than it did.
Yeah, and I'm sure
they're rough.
Nice. Anytime it's an OEM tire, OEM type tire, that's awesome. That's a good way to go. The only other alternative I might have suggested is how much to get a wheel for your Mercedes, an extra one, like at a junkyard or something like that. And
we talked about that too.
Good tires mounted.
Yep.
Throw it in the trunk.
We talked about that. The problem is I use my trunk and it's a smaller trunk.
Well, that's true. And and a full-size spare in a small trunk is problematic. You could throw it in the back seat.
I could.
Nothing better than a nice Mercedes.
Just have Peyton holding it, right? Yeah.
Having a spare tire in the back seat.
Exactly. I think that's perfect. Now, what he and I talked about, the only reason I didn't consider that, I would have probably considered that. Actually, I wouldn't even have really cared about it if I didn't drive so much.
Yeah.
If I was just doing local stuff, who cares?
Have you ever changed the flat?
I have many times. All right. I've changed them on trucks. My dad's big old truck, 1990 something, back in the 90s. I remember that. That was a pain in the butt. But yeah, I've changed plenty of tires.
Okay. I wanted to make that clear because these days, I've done hundreds, but I worked at a filling station that did tires.
There you go.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so we, break down beads and reinstall new ones. And anyway, but these days, hello, roadside assistance. It's John.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing any of that
I've
crap.
done some I'm pretty not handy at all. Like I said, that's pretty not handy at all. But I've even changed brakes on my car before. I've done that multiple times. Yep.
Yeah. How long did it take?
The first time it took probably 2 or 3 hours. Okay. But the second time I did it, I was done in an hour and a half.
Well, that's pretty good. I can see me 2 or 3 weeks and it's up on jacks in the front yard. That's
well, both times I did have help, but it was I did most of the work myself. But I did that. I've changed my oil. I've done all of that. Things I do not want to do.
Yeah.
I would rather pay someone to do, but I have done it.
And that is the benefit of it. I haven't done brakes. I've seen them done thousands of times, but I've never actually done it. Not obviously, many times I've changed oil, again, with my past work experience. And so you're right. I can do that stuff. I'm just not gonna anymore. I've done rust proofing of cars the old school way back in the 80s, probably 70s. It would have been. We used to have to drill holes.
1870s.
Very funny. We used to have to drill. Yeah, Fred Flintstone was my first customer. We used to have to drill holes in several places on the car, and this long wand, probably 30 inches long, I would guess. You would slide it in there and squeeze the trigger, and it would shoot like tar on the inside. And that's how they
Gross.
rust proofed back then.
Interesting.
And the tar would get everywhere, no matter how careful you were. I'm wearing a full on some sort of a suit, and I used to do like a plastic shower cap over my hair.
Nice.
And then at some point that didn't work. Here's how we used to get the tar off when we got it on us: a gas rag.
Oh, gross.
You would douse a rag with gasoline. And, I got a little on my face. That's excellent. Let's use the gas rag. Yeah. So I don't know how I've lived this long, but yeah, I'm not sure.
A lot of people have. Well, speaking of, that's a great segue. So I was watching YouTube. No shit.
Hard to believe.
Right. And there was an interview. There's a gentleman, I don't remember his name, but he's a filmmaker. And this was an interview in 1979 with a 98-year-old woman. And the whole conversation that he had with him, or her rather, was because she was born in the 1870s. Yeah, 1870s. So she was a little older. So maybe it was 76. I don't remember. Anyway, so she was born in the 1870s, and he wanted to talk to her about the changes in communication. So, the invention of the phone, the invention of the radio, and the invention of finally television, all through her lifetime, because she had her full faculties. Wow. And it was really interesting to hear her talk about how things changed and how she actually said, and I really do believe this too, because as much as I love technology, because we're on it right now, I love computers. I'm surrounded by 3 computers, and I have my cell phone. I can't go anywhere without my cell phone. I remember back to when I was younger, and all we had was the rotary dial phones.
Oh yeah,
and how much happier I was back then. And she said that. She said, all of this invention is wonderful, but I was so much happier back in the 1890s when none of this existed.
Yeah, there's a comprehension thing though. When you get to a certain age,
I agree.
I think that you just wash your hands of everything that's new. I'm guessing it happened with the Betamax tape.
I love Betamax.
I had a buddy who had one, and it was back when he got it. It was a massive contraption.
Yep. Yeah, we had one.
Yeah, but he had like a backpack.
Oh, really?
So he had a camera, and so the camera was massive anyway, and it all connected to this backpack, which was the beta player and all of that. It was probably 30 pounds.
Oh, sure.
And it did everything, and it was probably $2,000.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, that's a really interesting thing to talk about, because Betamax came out, and Betamax was the smaller version of beta tapes. And then VHS won out. Beta was actually a superior product.
It was, yes. And I worked
far superior,
not in production like you, but I was on the in front of the camera end of it, and beta tapes were the only ones they ever used.
Yep, exactly.
Because it was so much better. And we used some remember the LP sized video discs?
Yes.
So we had those as well, and used a scanner, and that's how we rolled video segments. Yeah. Because they were saved to those discs. And that was,
we actually did that, and that was not commonplace when I learned television production. Sure. But when I was a senior in high school, we actually put our first television studio in our high school. So we did, my senior year, we were broadcasting the news all across the high school.
Awesome.
And that's how we rolled video too, was off of Laserdisc.
Yep. Laserdisc. That's exactly what it was. And it was great because once it was in, and without going into all the details, it was almost seamless if you did it the right way. We had our own switchers in the studio. We could switch camera shots, and then whatever the input was, it was it was kind of a cool technology back then.
Yeah, that was really the turning point for me. At that point, there were two excuse me. There were two things that I was considering going to college for. And the first one was the one I was leaning more towards, which was golf course management. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at schools in California, Hawaii, and Florida.
Ding.
Ding. Yeah. And
I'd visit you a lot more often
I
if you
bet
were
you
in
would.
one of
I bet
those
you would. Well,
places.
the one I was really looking at hard was the school in Hilo in Hawaii.
Yeah, I'd look at that hard too.
Yeah, because they actually had one of the better golf course management programs. Um, and then the second thing was I was playing with theater because I was heavy into theater at the time. And as soon as I found the television studio, I pretty much went in there and learned how to do everything because no one at the school knew how. So I basically had to go in and teach myself how to run all of it and studied all of it. And I just absolutely fell in love with it, which is why I ended up going to film school in the beginning instead.
So, any regrets in this is really a deep question, but
Mhm.
in looking back at hindsight, would you take a different path today if you knew then what you know now?
I have thought of that actually in the past, and you know me very well, and I think our listeners by now, after almost 2 years, know me very well as
Oh, ad nauseum.
ad nauseum. Yeah, I'm kind of a little bitch when it comes to
Nice. I
way
was being
my
polite when I said
lifestyle.
ad nauseum, and you
Yeah,
just instantly upped the ante.
yeah. No, I'm kind of a snob, if you can't tell, and I think in a good way, but I'm
You're
fairly
not.
snobbish. I like money. I
Oh,
am not afraid to say I like money. Does money make me happy? No, I don't need tens of millions of dollars. I need to have a nice, comfortable living, which I do, and I want to do what I want to do. So I'm not looking to get rich in any way, but so I have an acquaintance. I don't even want to call him a friend because at one point we were competitors on the golf team. Um, and yeah, the shit runs deep with this dude. Anyway, he's a nice guy. He really is. Anyway, he became a golf pro, which that's kind of where the direction I was going, and a teaching pro, not like a tour pro.
right.
He went the path that I wanted to go. He went to
Mm,
school for it and learned golf course management and stuff like that.
mm.
And now I was not making a ton of money, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But when I went to play golf with him, I went home for a holiday and we went and hit the golf course because he was a pro at the golf course that I actually used to work at. And he said he was absolutely miserable. He had been doing it for 10 years. And even though his lifestyle, because this is Minnesota, so he would work in Minnesota for 4 months, 5 months, and then he'd fly down to the islands and work at a golf course down there for the rest of the year.
Wow.
But the most he ever made up until that point was 30 grand a year.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
That's
And
probably the thing that goes along with it.
yep. And then, if you're going to work at a really nice golf course, you got to live in a fairly nice area. So he had no money, no life. I mean, he was in one bedroom apartments, sleeping on people's couches,
Wow.
and that does not appeal to me. Which
Yeah.
is, quite honestly, was one of the reasons I didn't move forward with film after I got to know a lot of and I still have a lot of friends that are in the film industry, some of them very successful, but the sheer number of people that enter that industry every year compared to the people that not I'm not talking about the rich ones. I'm talking about people that can make a living doing it
Yeah.
is a very, very small percentage.
So if I can just equate that, especially with you being in the Nashville area, it's there is so much talent, especially musical,
Mhm.
and a lot more than that. I don't mean to just, but broadly speaking, the musical talent in Nashville is truly incredible,
Yeah.
and there are so few that really make it. It's almost like, high school football players
Yep.
striving to be professional athletes.
Exactly.
Such a tiny percentage actually make it to that level. It's just incredible. So I want to just shout out to a buddy of mine, David, who has been a an entertainer, I guess is the best way to. But he's a musician, sings, plays, blah blah blah. Has for 50 years.
Mhm.
I would guess, maybe longer. And he has not only the talent to entertain an audience. I'll give you some more examples of that in a moment, but also to earn a living and a comfortable living. So he went after. He moved to Orlando, Florida, several years ago, and he went after the retirement facility crowds so nursing homes and so
Nice.
on. And he has a penchant for older music, so stuff from the honestly 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, he can play through 50 or 60 years of music. And of course, the ladies primarily at the retirement homes are like, oh, damn. and I don't think he takes in, I don't think he has a tip jar. I just think
No,
that he has arrangements with
he's got
all of these
pockets.
places, and he has just cornered that market to a real degree. And I'm not just talking recently, he's done this for 25 years or 30 years.
Sure.
And so worked the business really well. And as much as that's work, he has been at it and been very successful,
That's
although
awesome.
on a small scale, but he made money and has done
As long as he's
extremely
happy,
well,
healthy.
very well financially
Yeah.
because of
And
his
that's what it's so
effort to
I
do that.
think there are three parts to this. And you'll hear people that are in the business say basically the same thing. You have to have talent, obviously, right? But as you said, there are a bunch of people with talent that don't make it. And a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of talent.
And some people, frankly, with not much talent that do make it.
Right. And that leads me to the second part. The next
Yes.
part is luck.
Yeah.
Most of it is
Well,
luck.
who
It's
you know.
it's who you know, it's luck,
Yeah.
it's being at the right place at the right time.
Sure, that too.
And then the last part is being smart with your money, knowing your niche, finding your niche, finding that area that you excel at,
Yeah,
or seemingly excel at, that you can, really make a good living. And those are the three parts to all of that. But a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it is sheer luck. And I do fold luck into knowing people as well. There's a lot to that. As if you know the right people, or you stumble upon the right people at the right time, you're more likely to get the things that you want.
there's some of that, but I think I think a lot of it is preparation too. And if you're not prepared for something like that, then no surprise, it's not going to cross your path as often.
Right.
So right place, right time isn't just coincidental. I think a lot of people put themselves in those places if they're doing it right.
But that goes to that third part, the niche part. You got to find it and work.
Well, you have to find that. But I'll give you an example for my buddy David, who used to play at Isleworth, which is a golf course that you might know outside Orlando, on which Tiger Woods lived, and several other touring pros built houses on Isleworth. And Payne Stewart was a frequenter of the piano bar where he played.
Nice.
And so he's there probably 2 nights a week at the time. And so he got to be good friends with Payne Stewart.
Nice.
And, these guys are hiring him for, parties that they were having at their homes or what. And he just put himself in that right. But he wasn't trying to impress them and for their status or anything like that. And
right.
I think that's why they latched onto him. So, he was sad when Stewart passed away.
That was sad. I was thinking about that the other day.
It was really
I was going through my flight training, which is part of its video.
Yes,
and
right.
they were typing up there. That was the section we were on, was hypoxia and the symptoms of and stuff like that. So,
but don't you have gauges internally in the cockpit that will tell you what your oxygen levels are?
No, no. You have altimeters. So the way it works is anything 10,000 feet
over 10,000 feet.
Yeah,
yes.
It's over 10,000 feet. Yeah. You have to. Well, it's actually over 12.5. You need to have a pressurized cabin or have oxygen.
Correct.
And what happened with that jet was it was pressurized, so they didn't have oxygen, and for some reason the pressurization didn't hold or didn't take, and no one noticed. And
so no. I can't believe there's not a gauge or some digital readout that would say you're losing pressure.
Oh, if you lose it, yeah. But if you never had pressure to begin with, I think that was what it was. Is it never pressurized?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that isn't. Again, I don't understand how. How about a barometer in the cabin that measures air pressure?
Yeah, well, I think that's how it works. But if you don't, I don't know the specifics, so I'm not saying that I even looked at the.
No, I want you to give me a full accounting, sir.
Well, so all of your gauges are basically barometers. So
Okay.
any of your steam, any of your gauges in the cockpit, unless you're even with the computers, there's a certain level of old technology in there. To
Sure.
even your altimeter is basically a barometer, which is why it constantly changes. If you've ever heard communications, altimeter setting is blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Right.
You have to adjust your altimeter.
Sure.
It's based on the air pressure.
Yep.
So
Interestingly, just as an insert here, I used to have a Casio sports watch that had an altimeter built in. It
really,
was a barometer.
yeah.
So we'd get up into the plane, and as we go up, whatever. At first, it's accurate, and then the cabin's pressurized, and it has no idea how high we are.
That's exactly how that all works.
Sure.
But yeah, so my assumption is whatever device they had in there that would tell them that they had no oxygen, or that the oxygen was or the cabin wasn't pressurized, was probably faulty, and that's probably why they didn't.
Got it.
And then you're supposed to, which is why that whole section on hypoxia is, you're supposed to know the symptoms, and you basically, what happens is you fall asleep.
Yeah.
You just get drowsy.
I'm so sleepy. Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh.
And then eventually you just don't wake up.
How sad.
Yep.
Just
so for anyone
I
that
guess
might
it's
not
not a
know
bad
what
way
happened,
to go.
Oh no, it's probably
you're
the
gonna
best way to
go.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
For any of you that don't know, Payne Stewart was in a private jet flying from, I don't remember if he was flying home from a tournament or flying to a tournament.
I'm not sure.
With a bunch of people, and all of a sudden they lost contact, and they literally had two jets up next to it, and they couldn't do anything, and they just let it go until it ran out of gas, and then it crashed and killed everybody.
It wasn't in a populated area, obviously.
No, it was over Iowa, I think.
I mean, why
does Iowa kill all the famous people for in airplanes?
Well, not all of the famous people. That was actually the Sioux City. There was a United Airlines crash in Sioux City, Iowa. That was a DC-10.
Ooh, that's a big one.
One that cartwheeled,
mm-hmm.
and there's video of it.
Really?
It like cartwheeled, and I want to say 2/3 of the passengers walked away. I mean, it was just incredible, and a job done by, I can't remember the story exactly, but the captain, and there were two off-duty pilots as well. So there were like 4 guys up in the cockpit working the controls because they lost the rudder. The number 2 engine blew.
Oh,
and so that was the one up on the wing on the tail on a DC-10. Yeah. And actually, I was on a flight that exact thing happened.
Really?
The only difference was on my flight, it did not rupture the hydraulics.
Okay.
Which it did on this one. So these guys were fighting the controls all the way, got it so close to the ground, and then it spun and flamed. And so I don't know but I do know that several of the passengers walked away.
Wow, that's crazy.
Heroic.
When was this?
What's that thing that can tell us what happened?
It's spelled, you might want to take notes. G-O. I had a sales manager or not a sales manager, he was a GM that used to do that. What's the number for this bank? It's you got a piece of paper? G-O-O-G.
Well, what's the number for 911?
Yeah, exactly.
It was United Airlines flight 232, July 19th, 1989.
89. Okay. I'm going to look that
the
up.
registration number on the DC-10 was Nancy 1819 Undertaker.
You want to try that again?
No. I
Oh,
don't need to.
You're really good with that phonetic alphabet.
I like to make them up.
That was good.
What's the U? Undertaker. I actually printed that out because I would like to be able to do the Alpha, Tango, Bravo, but I don't know them all. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure you do. That's part of your flight training, probably.
Well, I've known him for a long time, but yeah.
Oh, fine.
N is November.
Whatever.
Every American,
What's you?
Every North America, every United States airplane registration begins with an N.
November.
U
is what? Uncle?
Uniform.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I could get some of them, but I can't get them all. So
one
more segue for you.
Well, the other crash, I think it was in Iowa. Was it not? It could be one of the Dakotas, but I think it was Iowa. Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
In a doctor killer.
Was it don't tell me. Beechcraft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was a V-tail, so I think it was a doctor killer.
If this is your first time listening and you don't know what a doctor killer is, Nick has a pet name for
It's not my pet name.
Beechcraft aircraft with the V-tail.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I do.
Do they call it that? Hey, Beechcraft,
Yeah.
it's me, John. Do you have any doctor killers at stock?
I don't think Beechcraft calls them doctor killers.
No,
but plenty of people do. You can look it up. Do a search on the Google for a doctor killer.
No, I'm not going to. I know what it's going to bring up. Or I'm going to have that in my search history and they're going to come after me.
That's why I'm asking you to do it instead of me.
There's no chance. Lord knows I've searched for enough bad stuff already.
Right?
I don't want Dr. Killer up there.
I wonder how long the NSA keeps tabs on our...
If I thought they'd hear anything interesting from me or this podcast for that matter, I would.
I totally sit there and start searching everything.
What the hell? Can't we get an easier one like Joe Rogan or somebody?
I'm pretty happy if they start listening. That's another listener.
Maybe we should say shadier things so we can get multiple agents.
Right? There you go.
So how did you get your listenership so high? Well, we started doing conspiracies.
We started
online
advertising.
Wow. Yeah, we find we're CIA heavy, but that's okay.
That's okay. CIA, NSA, I love it. They're all great listeners. Hopefully, they can become Patreons.
Listeners, yeah.
They go to Patreon.
Recorded for Pete's sake. Yes, our recordings have gone way up.
Yeah.
Very funny. So where I was going to go was when we talked about the regrets thing. That was mine.
Which?
So when I went to school, it was journalism for me.
Okay.
And that was my thought. This is a result of my being stupid and having a horrendous guidance counselor. I would have been a commercial pilot.
Really?
I didn't know you could go to school for that. I thought you had to be in the military or something. No. You can go to school to be a commercial pilot.
Now, if you want to get it done for free, go into the military.
Well, for free.
Yeah.
Because there's no other commitment involved when you join the military.
They pay you to become a pilot.
I'm a pilot. I don't have to do basic training. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So
more so than
others. State
others.
of mind.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, I would have loved to have done that.
Yeah.
But I never knew you could do it.
Oddly enough, my stepbrother John did go to school to be a commercial pilot. Graduated, has a commercial license. I don't think he's flown in. Well, I haven't talked to him for 10 years. So I don't know if he's flown in 10 years, but yeah, and you know what he ended up becoming for many years, for about 10 years? Car salesman.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I just thought that was interesting. But
okay. So I was watching something I can't recall. I'm sure it was a YouTube video because that's all you and I do anymore.
Yeah, it's really except work.
Well, work, and I actually took a couple of courses earlier in the day today.
Good for you.
You know what? It's a perfect opportunity to do it because there is literally no one working right now.
Right.
And, so anyway, people not in our industry look at car salespeople in the same way they have for 50 years. Oh, they're shysters. They're blah, 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 terrible people. You know what? Largely they're not. In fact, the vast majority are good people who are just trying to make a living.
Right.
If they're not well trained, if they're not well,
that's the key right there.
Enculturated, then just like any job, they're gonna. Have you ever had a bad waiter or waitress? Have you ever had a bad chef who made a terrible plate of food? Yes, and it doesn't make them bad people. It's a lot of it is just the training's not there or the leadership isn't there or something like that. No offense, dealers, but that's really the case in a lot of these instances. I have met so few. I've met some, but so few who are quote unquote shysters, as I would call them.
Agreed.
There are just a lot of really good people. In the last few cars I bought, Look, I would wish that other places where I do business are as proficient as some of these dealers have become. And
Mhm.
so, but I don't try to fight it too much because sometimes low expectations are easy to surpass. So
Right.
somebody comes in and they're expecting some terrible experience, and you give them a less than terrible experience. Doesn't have to be perfect, but
Right.
that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's success by
Yes,
some
yeah.
definitions.
Yeah, if I do nothing more in my career in the car business for as long as I'm here, whether I'm here for 10 minutes or 10 more years or 20 more years, my goal is to help the industry, or at least that's my personal thing is I want to see the industry, I want to help the industry look at car salesmen or that particular side of the business as a really good quality career
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Something that someone can be proud of saying that they actually are, and then people will look at and go, wow, that's awesome, instead of being 1 percentage point lower than Congress during a shutdown in the popularity or trustworthiness.
I don't think they're lower than Congress because I don't
They
think
are.
anybody is. Oh,
They're what
God,
look at you
no.
got to look it up online.
That's a
Look at
terrible
the
poll then. Congress has
we
been
got above
lower
them and
than
then we went right back below them.
everybody.
Oh, I know. I know.
Oh my gosh, let's not even get into that.
Let's
But
not.
yeah, I've felt that way for many years, that's what I hoped to accomplish. And what happens, or at least in my experience, what I've seen is a lot of the salespeople that I trained, and seriously, thousands upon thousands of them over the years, have moved on to management positions.
Mhm.
And that's wonderful. It's just that sales training does not equal management training. They're
Correct.
two completely different animals. And
Yep.
and so we've probably collectively, um, as trainers, we could have done a better job, or could still do a better job training managers how to manage. Because to turn a top salesperson into a highly performing manager, it's really difficult.
It's really difficult. And
Yeah.
this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm an unpopular person sometimes.
Never.
Always. Anyway, I say, and when I say MBA, I don't mean you actually have to have an MBA or a degree to get, because there are plenty of extremely business savvy people that
Oh,
don't
sure.
have any degree at all. But I am a proponent for bringing people in who have specific skill sets,
Mm.
specifically people that are like MBAs, and putting them in charge of the business because they are business minded. They're thinking business. They're not necessarily thinking sales, because there's more to running a business than just worrying about sales.
Sure, but none
And
of
I
it
think, go
none
ahead.
of it exists in a vacuum, though.
No,
It
absolutely not.
if you don't have a sales acumen, I know plenty of people who are business minded, but because they don't
Well,
understand the
you got
sales
to,
piece of it.
and I agree with that, but
Yeah.
here's the other part of that. You've got to have people that are smart enough to realize that they have a certain weakness
Oh, well,
and
that's
they
true.
fill those holes. So if you find
That's
someone
a
who is that
really good point.
MBA level and you
Oh,
put them in
yeah,
as an EM of the store,
sure.
they're and they know that they are not sales savvy. What do? They hire someone below them who is
Mm,
sales savvy,
yeah.
who can take their vision for the business and communicate and help communicate that to the sales staff and
It's
really
just
drive the business. It's what we do in corporate America. Why can't we
sure,
do it at a dealership level?
because of the culture.
Right.
And
The
I
culture
think
needs
that
to change.
well, it does, and it's difficult because it's so entrepreneurial.
Oh,
There
absolutely.
there is very little that can happen outside of the dealer body because, frankly, that's the way the OEM structured it. So you can't blame dealers for being entrepreneurial because that's what they wanted.
Right.
If you don't have, and there's a different discussion around that when we talk about the potential rise of electric vehicles and so on, because there's less maintenance on them that dealers engage in just by virtue of you can't tear apart four engines at the wheel
Right.
at each wheel and
Well, I
teach a
mean,
mechanic to do
yes
that
and no.
necessarily.
You're gonna have there's gonna be more training involved, and
Well,
eventually that can happen.
but it won't because they are like Bic lighters. When you're done with a Bic lighter, you
True.
throw it out and you buy a new one. And
True.
that's really, it's kind of the same way with TVs now. What
Mhm.
There aren't many TV repair people out there
No.
anymore
No.
because people just, oh, it's 400 to replace it and it's 50 inches and Yeah, why would I fix this one for $395?
Exactly.
So
I told you I had that happen to me. I have two flat screens.
Yeah.
One of them was curved, and it was a newer one. One that I inherited. It's old, it's heavy, it's a brick, but it's still a high definition flat screen. It was one of the earlier ones, right? And they both broke basically around the same time. The TV repair guy came, fixed the old one, and that cost me I think $150 to fix it, and it works fine. It's the one we actually use right now.
Awesome.
And then my brand new curved screen, he said, it's going to cost me more to get the part for this to fix it than it is for you to go out and buy the exact same one brand new.
Wow.
I'm just wow is exactly right. Why?
Yeah, it's planned obsolescence.
Yep. And the TV's the one that's working now, the one that we use is, I'd say, probably 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
We've had it for 10. I got it from my mom when she died. And she had it for 5 before that, so 15 years.
Is it a plasma?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a plasma.
Plasma, yeah.
Yeah. And so that one still works just fine.
Yeah.
Not great, but just fine. And the other one was 5 years old. And it's a brick. It's completely dead. And of course, you can't just throw them out either. You have to get them recycled.
Exactly. Therein lies the other part of the puzzle.
Yep.
Sheesh. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so Potty Corner.
Potty Corner. Yeah.
You are on stage, my friend, because you are going to do Potty Corner.
Well, sort of. I don't have a fresh Potty Corner, but what I wanted to do.
You have a stale one?
I have a stale one. Yeah, exactly. Stale potty in the corner. I want to take my conversation from the very beginning of the podcast, and I want to get other people's opinions, because again, my weakness is understanding the proper way to buy and use tires. So I want to get people's opinions on what I should have done, if I should have done something differently with mine. Should I have gone ahead and purchased a spare tire and put the regular tires on? Should I have gone with the run flats again? And even the sales guy that was not selling me at all, he said, I hate run flats. I actually absolutely hate them. They're bricks. They're very rough. They're great if you get a puncture, but they suck. I would go with regular tires no matter what, and just figure out a spare. But yeah, so that was his opinion. I want to know what other people's opinions are. So for the next Potty Corner, I want to see if we can get a few people to chime in.
So I would think, just off the top of my head, Bill and Mike should be
absolutely
chiming in. Steven, we haven't heard from Steven for a while.
We haven't.
We've got lots of people who understand the business and even the parts and accessories part of the business. So it would be good to hear. That's a really good shout out.
Hey, I do what I can. And the way you can reach out to us is by heading up to PoddiMouths.com. You can leave a comment there. Subscribe to our newsletter.
Is that PoddiMouths?
It is spelled like that. You might want to slow it down. For those people that live in the South, you need to slow that down.
That ain't right there. You all are a lot speedier than this Midwestern feller. That's
I really got a question for you. I have a legitimate question for you.
Oh boy.
I have trouble when people do that with the letters really fast. I can't process that fast enough. Do you have a problem if someone spells something that quickly for you?
No, it's
really. So it's just
one
me.
Of my only talents, and you've heard me initialize things before, where I can give me a phrase and I can quite quickly tell you what the initials of that phrase were.
Right. See, I can't do that. There's something missing in my processing. I can't do that.
But I may have a weird piece in mind because it's from typing. When I learned to type, and it was on a freaking typewriter, let's be clear, I used to, in my head, spell as I was typing.
Okay.
So I'm really letter oriented and so I was a pretty good speller. Not as good anymore. I think they've changed the spelling on some of these words. That didn't used to be right.
Oh, so okay. Yeah. Rabbit hole.
Oh, good.
Berenstein Bears or Berenstein Bears?
Yes.
Which one is it?
I think it's Berenstein Bears.
It's Berenstein. Look it up. Look up the spelling.
You look it up.
I have. Look it up. There's a conspiracy theory out there that the name has changed.
Berenstain.
Berenstain.
What?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
It was never that way.
What I said. That's what a lot of people are saying. It's a huge conspiracy theory. Now I'm sending you down a rabbit hole.
I know what we'll do. Can I just tell you what's even going to be more interesting when the NSA looks at my search results?
Berenstain.
I have a Sioux City crash, airplane crash, and I go right to the Berenstain Bears.
Yes, that is so true.
There's nothing here, Sarge. Let's move along.
Anyway, head up to PoddiMouths.com. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think for the next Potty Corner, what you think about my tire purchasing abilities.
And tell us about yours too. What have you done with your tires as you're replacing them? What situations have you run into?
Yeah, and I've also, here's another thing. A lot of people told me I should ask for the 2 good tires. I guess I had 3 good tires to bring them home and sell them on eBay. And I didn't do it, but I had a lot of people tell me I should, and I just felt really uncomfortable, so I didn't. I'd like to know how many people actually do that.
Yeah, weigh in on that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Head up to Facebook, Instagram, all those fun places. Like, subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcasts. That would be very, very helpful. Leave a comment anywhere that you listen to your podcast, because all of those help to bring us up so we can get some more listeners. If you have a friend, John, what happens if you have a friend that you think would like our podcast?
Then please recommend that they come and listen. You can send them to PoddiMouths.com. If you have an enemy that you wish ill on and you don't like the podcast, please
make their ears
send
bleed.
them to PoddiMouths.com.
Make their ears bleed.
We will
John,
collectively do that. Yes.
I didn't get to do this last week, so I'm going to do it now.
Do it.
It's been real. It's been fun. Hasn't been real fun.